NFTs are all over the place right now. There's people making millions while others are losing their life savings in the blink of an eye. So I decided that I wanted my piece of cake, and just to put you into perspective, about 3 weeks ago I knew nothing about crypto nor NFTs, but I knew that I wanted to get on board. So I decided to take 2 weeks full time and study as much as I could about this whole thing, and along the way I stumbled upon NFTs, and that really caught my attention. So after studying for 2 weeks, it was now time to head on for my first week of trading. And let me just say this, it was an absolute roller coaster. I've had some pretty big ups and pretty disappointing downs, and I made pretty noob mistakes along the way, as you'll see. But overall, it was a very positive experience, and I'm excited to continue next week. So with this being said, let's just dive right in, see what went right and what went wrong. So to get things started, I gave myself a $3,000 Canadian initial investment, which gave me roughly 0.88 ETH to play around at the time of my first deposit. It's not a very big amount to play with, but it's totally doable to get started with this, and probably with even less if you cannot afford to go all in with $3,000. This still meant that I needed to be very strategic with my investments, because 0.88 ETH can go by in the blink of an eye, especially when you take into account the fees and some losses, because obviously nobody wins all the time. So that's what I did. I did lots of reading, lots of researching. I got involved in the communities. Still, I ended up investing in 3 different projects, and as you'll see, I'm still holding 2 at the end of this week, but still I've managed to make a pretty good profit. So with this being said, I want to walk you through some of the trades that I've made this week, and as you'll see, the first movement in my wallet was not actually a trade, it was just a bunch of fees. And I'm not going to go too much into the detail of this, but essentially there's fees from OpenSea, there's fees from the exchanges, and those do not include the fees that I've had buying something. This I include in the cost of the item. So that's a pretty crazy amount to think about, because it's essentially almost 20% of my initial investment, which was gone with no real benefits. So yeah, that was off to a rough start, but as you'll see, it gets worse, because my second investment was in Grumpy Pandas, and I've made a separate video on that because that was actually a rug pull. So essentially, the author made the sale, people went on and minted some of his NFTs, but there was never any reveal, and he's just gone. And yeah, that's basically what you have to be careful of. And I've reviewed this because there were obvious red flags which I missed because I was a newbie. But essentially, I bought one for 0.2 ETH, but I managed to resell it for 0.13. With all the fees, I still lost almost 0.2 because the gas fees were so high. So like I said, I've made a separate video on this. So please go ahead and watch this, especially if you're new to the NFTs. I've made some very, very beginner mistakes, which are especially easy to avoid if you just pay attention to certain things. Most of the scams are usually built the same way, and they don't have a very detailed roadmap, and they don't have good quality information on there. So yeah, it's really important that you get informed before diving in any of these trades, because as you can see, I got caught and I lost almost 0.2 ETH there too. And I was pretty lucky actually to resell mine at 0.13, because since then, of course, the floor price has dropped quite significantly. So all of this brings us to my second investment. So after Grumpy Pandas and the fees, I was down about 0.35 ETH, which is getting dangerously close to half of my wallet being gone with no real benefit. So as my second investment, I went on and I could not mint, but I bought secondhand a generative dungeon, which if you followed is a really cool project, really innovative. So I was very excited to get into this one. I managed to grab one for 0.3 ETH, and then I watched the floor raise slowly and slowly, and it went to 0.5 and 0.8, and then eventually 1 and 1.2 and 1.8, and eventually Gary V caught on this project and he tweeted about it, and then things just went insane. Everyone started trying to buy, and the floor went to 2.5 and then to 3. That's the highest I've seen it. It went to 3. But then because of this massive pump, there was obviously a big dump right afterwards. I was still holding at this point, but I saw the dump coming, so I wanted to get out. But this is not a project that I wanted to sort of paper hand on. I just wanted to be in it for the long run. So you'll see I've got something for that. So I wanted to get a few ETH back into my wallet. So I listed mine for 2.3 and it sold right away. So I was really happy about that because it kept going down and eventually it got back to like 0.6 or something like that. So still, I was very happy about my trade. I purchased at 0.3 and sold for 2.3 ETH. So after fees, that's about 1.7 ETH net profit, which was massive. I'd invested only 0.3, so that was over 5 times my initial investment, which I was blown away by, especially it was within like a 24-hour window. But still, I wanted to be in it for the long run. That's a project I really believe in. I think it's really innovative. But like I said, I still needed the money right now to get things started with buying and selling NFTs. So what I did is I sold at 3.2 and then I waited for the floor price to go down. And it did just that. It pulled back all the way back to 0.5 or 0.6 ETH. And at that time, what I did is I started looking for rare items. And I did basically just that. I found one which was ranked in about 170 or 180. So it's in the top 10% most rare items. And I purchased it for 1.16 ETH. At the time of recording this video, it's still worth about that. And I don't see a lot of sales for items that are very rare. So I have yet to see if this investment is gonna pay off in the long run, but I do believe so. And then I made a third small investment in an NFT called the Donut Shop. And what this is it's actually one of the first, it's the first that I've seen, doesn't mean that there were not any before that, but it's one of the first NFTs which is used to fund an actual business. So this is gonna be a brick and mortar donut shop. And there will also be stuff in the metaverse, 3D characters, some stuff that you can stake your donuts and get rewards for. So really interesting project, kind of, I don't want to say all over the place, but there's a few different aspects to it. But what I like most is that the author is very active, he's close to the community, he's getting people involved, so he's building some hype. So at the time of recording this video, the minting is not sold out, you can still purchase it, but I doubt it will sell out because you can purchase your donut on OpenSea for less than the minting price. So I've purchased my donut for 0.16 ETH. Right now the floor is below that, so we have yet to see if this is going to pick up eventually. I believe it will, and the author said he will close the minting at the end of the week, regardless of if it's sold out or not, which is a good thing, I think, because as of right now it has not sold out and it does not look like it will in any reasonable amount of time. So yeah, I'm excited about this one. It should move forward pretty quickly. Hopefully we'll see a return on that, and as a sidekick I get a lifetime donut supply if I ever go to Miami, which is basically like 4,000 kilometers away from my home. But hey, you know, it's included, so why not get it? So those were all of my trades. Like I said, I'm still holding on to 2 NFTs, one which is a generative dungeon, which is rather rare, and one which is a donut, which has not been revealed yet. So it should be revealed at the end of the week, and by then I'll have a better idea of its value. But this being said, these 2 NFTs I want to hold on to for quite a while and see where things go from there. If we look at the week as a whole, it's pretty crazy because I started with 0.88 ETH, and I ended up making a profit of 1.4. So I more than doubled my money, nearly tripled, which is really crazy to think about, especially coming from the world of stocks where this happens once in the blue moon. So I'm really stoked about this. I still have some exposure in the 2 NFTs that I'm holding, which might go up or down in value, and I'm hoping to make some more wise investments next week and hopefully be able to make some profit. Maybe not do times 2, times 3 every week, but let's be reasonable. But if I'm able to make a consistent positive outcome, I will be very happy. So overall, that was an awesome week. Of course, there were lots of up and downs, and especially at the start, I got pretty scared because I was not trending too well, let's put it this way, but I've managed to do 1 home run, and this really taught me that maybe I should only go for the big projects. Maybe I don't have enough experience to go with the small ones and try flipping small stuff. So I'll really just stick with the stuff that I can get for very low. Make sure that I do a good due diligence, and probably also try to start racking up a few NFTs for the long run, which may or may not go way up in value. So that's really what I should be looking for on the long term. But for now, still, I'll try to get on some smaller projects that I can afford and see how those ones go. So thank you for being around. I will keep you posted for next week, see how things go from there. And hopefully I'll have some good news to share with you by then. So stick around and thank you for watching this.